Lindamood-Bell Radio. I'm Dave Hungerford for Lindamood-Bell. Lindamood-Bell Learning Center instruction for reading, comprehension, and math helps students catch up or get ahead in learning. Our one-to-one, customized learning plans are designed to help children feel more confident and be prepared for school. Instruction is available live, online, and in person. Learn more at lindamoodbell.com. Today's episode is a conversation I recently had with Lauren and her mother, Donna. Lauren's a former Lindamood-Bell student who's now graduating high school with honor. Here it is. Welcome to Lindamood-Bell Radio, Lauren. Tell me a little bit about your current academic status, what you're doing in school right now.
So right now I am attending Marvin Ridge High School and I am finishing up my senior year.
And what are your plans for next year?
I will be attending High Point University, and I will also be in the Honors College there.
Do you have any decisions made as to what you're going to study?
Right now, as of today, I am a psychology major, but that could change depending on my interests.
Believe me, things can change. Career paths can change quite a bit.
Yes.
Well, exciting time. Well, we're talking because you had an experience a while back with Lindamood-Bell.
I did.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So I started with Lindamood-Bell around 4th grade when I was diagnosed with dyslexia in 3rd grade. I started Lindamood-Bell in 6th grade, and then I continued throughout the 5 years that I was with them.
Do you recall learning I know it's a long time ago, do you recall learning how to read?
Yeah, so when I was in 3rd grade, I do remember being behind in reading, but I didn't really know what it was. I wasn't able to form pictures like other kids were and not remember the story as well. I would also skip lines. And then my parents took me to a place called Child and Family Development where they diagnosed me with dyslexia.
And how did they explain that to you? What did that mean?
I don't know if you know the show with Bella Thorne in it. It's called Shake It Up. But they showed me a clip of her, and she has dyslexia. So they showed me the clip of her sitting on the stairs with her friend saying, "I'm dyslexic. It's not a bad thing. We just learn differently." So that's kind of how they broke the news to me.
And did you notice yourself that like your friends were speaking up in class more, or any things were different?
Well, so when I was in 3rd grade, I was bullied. So I didn't really have a lot of friends in my elementary school. I was bullied because I was different, didn't learn like the other kids. So nothing really changed in that dynamic. It was just figuring out how to work with the teachers.
Did you hate school and come home angry every day?
I did. I remember having conversations with my mom, screaming on the steps, bawling, I don't want to go back. It was kind of horrible.
Yeah. Presumably Lindamood-Bell helped, obviously. We wouldn't be talking here today. Do you remember the first early parts of going there? You said you were there for a long time. Do you remember when you first
came?
I
remember walking into the center in Charlotte and being welcomed by Miss Leanne and Brian and Richard and all of them. And they said, we'll do a test with her, and in between the tests she'll have breaks, and then we'll get back together with you guys and figure out our next steps.
And it's a long series of tests, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It was a good 3 hours.
Yeah. So what did you do at Lindamood-Bell? Do you remember that?
I went through all the programs. So I went through Seeing Stars, On Cloud 9, their writing program, math. That's On Cloud 9.
Visualizing, verbalizing.
Yes.
Yeah. And you kind of spoke earlier saying that when you were reading, you weren't making the pictures like other kids do. And I'll bet you didn't realize that at the time, but that's kind of what our work is predicated and based on, making those pictures. And so it sounds like you've remembered the language of the instruction too.
I do. I remember the felts and touching the felts and the blocks and all of it.
What was the most challenging part for you, if you can condense those 5 years?
I think the most challenging part was I would occasionally get tired throughout the day. And as I started to get tired, because I didn't have the capacity to keep going and the stamina, I would get frustrated with myself when I started to not remember as quickly.
And Now, did you go continually for 5 years, or was it like summers?
So when I started, I was in school. So I would come home after school and all my extracurricular activities. And around 8 o'clock, I would do a virtual call with them from 8 to 9. And then on the weekends, on Saturday, I would go from literally when they opened until when they closed.
Was it via computer, or how
It
did you do that?
was.
Yeah.
They sent me a computer and all of the books and materials that I needed, and someone would get on with me and help me out.
Brings me to another subject I was going to talk about. What have the past couple of years been like for you?
Ooh, COVID.
Yeah.
COVID hit when I was a sophomore, I think, in high school, the end of my sophomore year. And it was kind of challenging for me. I went through a period where I only have two really good friends in the neighborhood. I wasn't able to see them often, and learning virtually just wasn't working out for me because I'm very much of a question person. So when I was virtual, I would ask my questions, but occasionally the teacher wouldn't hear me and I wasn't able to see the board and stuff.
So did they conduct your classes like a large Zoom meeting where there were
Yes, they did.
tic-tac-toe faces on there? Yeah.
They did. First half of this COVID year, my end of sophomore year, they did have just videos that we would have to watch and then paperwork to do. But junior year, they kind of started to figure it out that if we do Zoom meetings, it's a lot easier.
And so are you back to full-time live now?
I am full-time live with no masks, thankfully.
Yeah, nice. That makes a big difference. Well, we talked about some of the challenges. Do you recall any times where there were like your successes in the programs when you really felt like, yeah, I got it?
Yeah, so I remember distinctively when you graduate from a program, the Lindamood-Bell I was at, we would do a ceremony where all the kids would come into the room. And I remember I was working with Richard and we had read this one story about this molasses plate thing in Wisconsin kind of broke and flooded the town. So that's the story I remembered. And that was a story that I read 3 weeks prior. And so I was really happy that I was just able to remember that and it stuck with me.
What would you say to a student who was maybe a little reluctant to go sit and do in some cases, like you did on Saturdays, several hours, 4 hours? A real common schedule is like the summers for kids to go 5 days a week for 4 hours.
Yeah, so I remember Miss Leanne pulled me into a meeting that they had about just getting parents information session about Lindamood-Bell, and she wanted me to kind of speak from a student perspective because there were a couple students in there. And they were like, well, I don't really want to sit in there for that long and just do work. Like, that's boring. But I want to get help. And I was like, well, if you want to get help, then you need to sit. But something that I told them was, in order to get better, you need to do the work. And they make it a lot of fun. Like you're going to have breaks. One thing that really helped me was when I would do math or spelling, I would go outside and toss a ball. So I was like, it's not always just sitting at a desk. Like, they do make it fun. So if they make it fun, it's easier to learn.
And doing the work to get the results is a pretty true maxim for a lot of different things in life.
Yes.
Are you, what are your hobbies outside of reading?
I do horseback riding, and I'm also a volunteer at a therapeutic riding barn called Misty Meadows.
What's a therapeutic riding barn?
So it's where our barn takes kids with disabilities like cerebral palsy, autism, any kind of disability, and we put them on horses. So we have these really chill horses that help the kids do things that they might not be able to do at other places.
That must be very great for them and rewarding for you as well.
It is.
Tell me the name of it again one more time.
Pardon?
Tell me the name of the place.
It's called Misty Meadows.
Misty Meadows. Do they have a website if people wanted to?
They do.
Help them out?
If you just look up Misty Meadows Mighty Riders, then it'll come up and it'll show a picture of a sunflower field. But if you just click on website underneath that, it'll come right up.
Nice. How'd you get involved with that?
So actually my mom found it and she was like, hey, this place sounds really great. I've been doing it since 8th grade. And she was like, you love helping people, so this might be something great for you. And that's where it all started.
So you finished your years at Lindamood-Bell. did you ever like go for another testing to see? I mean, we did a testing, I'm sure, and our tests look at the specific things. Sometimes some of those particular skills are used in tests for dyslexia. We don't prescribe or give those diagnoses formally. Did you ever go to get retested outside of Lindamood-Bell?
Retested outside of Lindamood-Bell, I got a psych ed done at Southeast Psych, but that was really just for my 504 for my college plan. But I did get retested at Lindamood-Bell once I was done with the program to see how far I excelled from the first time I went there to my ending.
Do you remember what the results were?
I was a lot better.
Nice.
I had increased in everything. So.
And so have you, if you're in a 504, have you been receiving like special ed services?
So I don't receive special ed services. I receive things like extra time on tests and quizzes, extended time on projects, stuff like that.
So that's for people that don't know, that's kind of a 504 plan is the IEP, individual education plan, is kind of the big one that puts you in special education coursework typically. And 504 is kind of a in-between step just to get you, like you said, those extra helps. Do I have that right?
Yes. Something interesting with me though was I did try to apply for an IEP, but when I took the test, they were like, you're just above I wouldn't say, it's basically an IQ scale of if you need it or not. And I was just above that IQ scale that I couldn't receive it.
Great. Well, and how's your high school academic progress been?
It's great. I've been an all A and B student throughout my all 4 years and got inducted into the National Honor Society this past year. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Hit college with your feet running. That'll be great.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for talking with me today. Appreciate it. I'm glad to hear the story. It's awesome to have people that can look back and recall the changing events they've had for them. And it sounds like you put in the work and making it happen. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. I'm now talking with Lauren's mother, Donna. And Donna, tell me a little bit about Lauren's academic experiences in learning to read early on.
Wow, where do I even begin? I can remember back as far back as first grade. We entered public school in first grade. So she went to a private kindergarten. There were no issues brought to our attention. And when we went to our parent-teacher conference in first grade, I literally described the feeling as I felt like a puppy that had just been kicked. I was expecting to go in and get, rave reviews of how great my daughter was doing in school and what a great student she was. And the teacher sat us down and said, your daughter is a year behind in math and reading. And I was like literally stunned and felt terrible. And I said, okay, my first response was, and my first action, I went back to the kindergarten. She went to the private kindergarten. And I said, I have concerns here. Did you see anything? Any red flags, like anything? No. So, okay, we put her into one of those learning centers, such as, Huntington or Sylvan or Kumon. And she seemed to catch up mid-year. So everybody was like, oh, she's doing great. She's doing great. And then second grade came along and same thing happened. Okay, so we continued with the learning center, Lauren rallied and did great. And in third grade, right before her third grade year, we had moved here to North Carolina. And I get a phone call from her teacher who said, do I have her records? And I said, well, I had them transferred, so I assume you have access to them. But is there a reason why you're calling me and specifically asking me? And she said, well, I have concerns. Lauren is very behind in math and reading. And I would like to have a meeting to have her get services in those subject areas. And having been in healthcare as a nurse and a nurse practitioner, for 20 years, then my kind of little spidey senses went up that this is bigger than what I'm understanding.
Let me ask you, if I can, what was her kind of kid was she? Was her personality like? She was
Oh gosh, she was
outgoing.
She was happy. She was outgoing. I mean, when we first moved here to North Carolina, I remember being out on the sidewalk and she would see kids walk by and she'd go, "Hi, I'm Lauren. Would you like to be my friend? I've just moved here. I'm so excited." And she was very happy and very outgoing and very outspoken. We used to laugh that, if you didn't want an honest answer, don't ask Lauren a direct question because she's going to give you her honest answer. And she was great, always happy, always smiling. And
did she kind of understand that she was struggling, or was she
so
aware?
In third grade, she knew innately that she was struggling. She never verbalized it to us. She wasn't able to tell us. That's when we noticed that she started biting her nails and the stress started to build, but I didn't see it, right? So the school did pull her out for the services, and I went and had her privately evaluated because again, being in healthcare, I wanted a diagnosis. I wanted to know what I was dealing with. Not that I needed to label her, right? But if she had a specific learning disorder, I wanted to be able to get her specific help to, give her the support that she needed to get through and give her get in the right direction. So in the end of third grade, she was diagnosed with dyslexia and anxiety. And that started the whole process with her learning disability and learning, I don't like to call it a disorder, learning difference. She learns differently. She sees things differently than other kids do.
I'm always interested. How did they explain dyslexia to you? It's varies so differently over the years and over regions and practitioners.
No, I don't remember how they exactly explained it to me. I sort of had an idea, right? That my initial thing was, okay, it's a reading disability and she's going to flip her letters. And she had problems with, I think it was B's and D's. And they sort of explained it to me like a traffic jam. So she would read stuff and it would go in, but it wouldn't come out the same way. And she at times would explain that to me when I would say, well, what is it that you're feeling? What is it that you explain to me what you see and how you see it? And she says, I can't, it gets all jumbled. I understand it in class, but then it gets all jumbled and I can't do it here. Like now it's all jumbled up on the page.
So it wasn't just the reading the words off the page, but it was also the understanding of language as a whole too. It was a
yes.
Right?
So she was actually affected, like I say, globally affected. She was affected in reading. She was affected in math. It affected her in all subject matters. It affected her socially. She would struggle picking up on social cues, and sometimes she still does. So if somebody said something sarcastically, she wouldn't understand that. She wouldn't understand if somebody was joking versus not joking. And there were even times when she couldn't get a cue if somebody was subtly like upset with her, or she would take that to an extreme, like that they were angry with her. So she struggled on that level as well, which I found very interesting, that a lot of individuals who do have learning differences also have struggled in the social department as well with a lot of the same things.
And what we would say is it was funny that when she talked about her struggling to read, she mentioned that, I wasn't able to read it and make pictures and retain those pictures like the other kids did. Well, that's, kind of a real basis of Lindamood-Bell's work is that, and we would say that, and same with social situations, that if you aren't picturing that the languages and the cues aren't making a picture in your head that is making sense, then you're not going to get jokes. You're not going to get social situation, things like that.
Interestingly enough, we didn't even realize that she wasn't getting that visualization from stories and reading until we went to Lindamood-Bell. So we did Orton Gillingham tutoring for years, and we did that twice a week. And then, I would drive her to the facility, sit there for an hour. She would do it. They would say, "Oh, she's doing great. She's doing great." But we were still having the same struggles, still having the same meltdowns at home, still not being able to process things that she should be able to process after tutoring. And as the workload got more difficult, you can only imagine her frustrations became worse and worse. So the meltdowns would get worse, and the self-confidence, was just quickly, going down and dwindling away. And that it was heart-wrenching, absolutely heart-wrenching. We put her in private school. We thought, okay, take her out of the public school setting where she was being bullied, not only by children, but by adults. And then the private school was a smaller setting, right? Smaller class. And it was a Christian-based school. So I thought, okay, the kids were great. She didn't, to my knowledge, and I know of, she didn't have too many bullying issues. I'm sure there were a few, but not to the extent that we had experienced. But then it did become a struggle with some of the teachers. They would get frustrated with a constant question asking, trying to understand. And they would say, "But you're getting it right, so you understand it." And she was like, "No, I don't understand. I still don't understand it. I still can't do it." And that led me back to, okay, this is only going to get worse as we go up in grade level, and I need to do something.
How'd you find Lindamood-Bell?
So when I had her privately evaluated, they actually put it in the evaluation as a resource. And initially, I'll be completely candid with you, people discouraged me from going there because of the cost. And in hindsight, I say, when I have a parent call me for a referral to Lindamood-Bell, it is the best investment I ever made in my daughter. I have no regrets. I would do it again in a minute. It was life-changing for her. And when I met with Leanne, she was this light, a light of hope and a ray of sunshine for us. And she described me as a broken mom, and I was. It has been I am forever thankful to Lindamood-Bell for the things that it has done for my daughter. Truly.
You recall she said she was there for several years, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So you had to probably invest some time driving and spend some time there. And do you recall?
Well, I will say this, we did. And, but they were great with us also. They were so flexible. At the time, they were able to set Lauren up remotely. And so for Monday through Friday, she would work 1 hour a day, 1 hour a night remotely with an instructor. And then on Saturday, she would go in for, 4 or 5, sometimes 6 hours, and really, have an intensive day at the center. So it was intense. And she did the 2 programs, the Seeing Stars and the VV. I call it VV. I know there's an official name for it, but I call it VV.
Yep.
And she did some math program. And then anytime we would go back for her annual evaluation, if there was a gap and she needed some more support, we would, get her that as well. So Lauren was all in. And thankfully, she was that kind of a kid and had that work ethic, and she wanted to succeed. She herself saw the success and the results, which made it easy. I didn't have to force her to do it. She loves going to the center. She still to this day will call them and celebrate her successes with them. So it's a beautiful relationship. So that made it worthwhile, every bit of it.
And did you see what were some of the early changes you saw with her academics and her understanding of things?
One of the first things I noticed was when we would drive in the car and suddenly she started reading signs. And she had never done that before. You know, she would avoid reading altogether, but she would start reading the signs. And I was like, oh. And then she would want to read a book, or she would want me to read to her at least, or we would take turns reading, which she didn't want to do that for a while. And then, yeah, when she started having some successes in school and her confidence started to come back. And then when she finally said, I'm ready to go back to public school now, I want to give it a try. That was like that was a win. And to see her now going in as a scholarship recipient to college, into honors college, it's just, and she's a presidential scholar. So that's how she was admitted into the school. So it's been amazing, amazing.
That's quite a growth curve there from 8th grade on.
Yeah.
She said she had a good high school A's and B's, and like you said, on the honor society. And
she's a straight A student. She finished all of her required classes for the state of North Carolina by December of this year. She could have graduated early. She chose to stay in as a student. So she takes one class at the school, and now she's taking some community college classes.
Great.
So she's quite accomplished. I'm beyond proud of her. And again, I don't know that we would be here having this conversation. I don't know what the picture would be if I didn't have Lindamood-Bell in that story.
She seems very driven, and kind of a theme of working hard to get results came up a couple times with her. How would you describe her now?
Oh, wow. Hardworking, driven for sure. More confident again. I see her confidence coming back. Mature beyond years. Self-aware. Loving, caring, kind, considerate, smart. I could go on and on. I could brag about her for days. She's compassionate. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
And nobody's going to bully her now.
Thankfully. She was afraid of the consequences. So there were things said to her that made her believe that there would be these terrible consequences if she said anything to her mom or dad. So, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? But the final straw for me was when she was told that she could only ask 3 questions a day by her teacher. Yeah.
I wonder why some people go into that profession.
It did make me wonder. But honestly, things happen for a reason. I think it has made her stronger. I think it has made her choose the career that she wants to choose in psychology. And it has driven her to show people, right, when people would say, you'll never do this or you'll never do that. It drove her. It gave her that drive to succeed and silently say, I did do it and I can do it and I will do it. Again, I think back to any parent who is considering Lindamood-Bell. It's an investment. It's an investment financially. It's an investment in your time, in your child's time. But it is the best investment you can possibly make to give them the resources that they need to succeed. I can't say enough. so thankful.
Well, thank you so much for sharing Lauren's story today. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for having Lauren. Again, we are forever grateful and thankful for Lindamood-Bell and the staff at our center. They are phenomenal.
And thank you for listening. Learn more about us at lindamood-bell.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We are Lindamood-Bell.